You know that feeling? When you want to get the gist of something big, get those aha moments, but without drowning in details.
Yeah, totally.
Well, that's what we're aiming for today. We're diving deep into something that could, well, really shake up digital commerce in India.
Exactly. We're talking about the Open Network for Digital Commerce, ONDC for short.
Yeah.
It's potentially a game changer for how buying and selling happens online there. A huge market, obviously.
Right. So, ONDC, what is it exactly? We're drawing insights today from a pretty detailed report, Democratizing Digital Commerce in India. Looks like it's mainly research from ONDC itself and McKinsey and Company, based on, wow, over 100 expert interviews.
And there's a strategy paper, too.
Ah, yes, and a strategy paper. So these sources basically describe it as, well, an open network. The idea is buyers and sellers can connect and transact digitally no matter which app or platform they're actually on.
The goal being a more level playing field, more competition, more inclusion.
And the really interesting part, I think, is where the inspiration comes from. It's modeled on other successful open networks, the things we use every day, like UPI for payments in India, which has been massive.
Absolutely. And even more fundamental things like the protocols behind email, IMAP, SMTP, or even just browsing the web with HTTP. These open standards are why the internet works the way it does, right? Openness drives adoption.
Exactly. And ONDC wants to do that, but for buying and selling stuff online?
A pretty big ambition.
Yeah, no kidding. So our mission here is simple. Pull out the really crucial bits about ONDC for you. What's its potential impact? What are the key ideas without getting bogged down? And it's super relevant because India's digitizing like crazy, but online shopping, still only about, what, 7% of the total retail
Yeah,
market?
huge room for growth there.
So let's set the stage. To really get why ONDC is a big deal, we need to look at where Indian digital commerce is now.
Okay, so India's seen incredibly fast digital adoption, payments like you mentioned with UPI, and just people consuming content online. By 2022, you had something like 840 million internet users.
840.
Yeah, and around 600 million smartphone users.
Mhm.
Digital payments just exploded.
But, and here's the catch, actual online shopping, e-retail penetration, it lags quite a bit behind places like China, South Korea, even the UK.
It does. Back in 2020, the total value, the GMV, for digital commerce was about 2.85 lakh crores. That's roughly 38 billion US dollars.
Which sounds like a lot.
It is, but it was only 4.3% of total retail spending. Now it's projected to grow massively, maybe hitting 15 lakh crores or $200 billion by 2026.
Wow.
But still, starting from a relatively small base compared to the overall retail pie.
And this is where ONDC steps in, right? Because the current system is very platform focused.
Exactly. It's dominated by a few large platforms.
Yeah.
ONDC aims to tackle the limitations that come with that model, create more choice, more opportunities for everyone. It's striking, despite all those internet users, only about 20% actually shop online regularly.
Only 20%.
Yeah. And on the seller side, think about small and medium businesses, MSMEs. There may be 100 million of them in India. Less than 5 million are currently selling online.
So a huge untapped potential on both sides. Okay, so we see the why. The need is clear. Let's get into the what. What are the core ideas, the fundamental attributes of ONDC?
Right. Two main concepts really define it. First, and probably most important, is interoperability.
Interoperability, okay.
It just means that everyone on the network, buyers, sellers, logistics providers, tech platforms, they can all work together seamlessly without being locked into one single platform.
So, like, I could be using my favorite shopping app, maybe one from my bank, or a messaging app.
Potentially, yes.
Mm-hmm.
If that app is ONDC enabled, you could use it to find products from sellers who might be listed on a completely different seller app somewhere else on the network. Your choice isn't limited to just the seller signed up with your specific app.
Okay, that makes sense. Like sending an email from Gmail to Outlook or a text from Android to iPhone. The systems talk to each other behind the scenes.
Precisely. That's the core idea of interoperability here.
Got it. What's the second key attribute?
The second one is unbundling.
Unbundle.
Yeah. Think about a typical e-commerce purchase today on a big platform. Often that platform handles almost everything, right? The listing, the search, the payment, the delivery. It's all bundled together. ONDC breaks that down. It separates the transaction into smaller individual activities, or you could say microservices. Things like sell-side discovery, buyer-side search, logistics, payments, returns.
So each piece can be handled by a different company or specialist.
Exactly. Instead of one giant controlling everything, you could have specialized players. A company might just focus on providing the best buyer search experience. Another might be purely a logistics provider offering delivery services across the network. A small seller just focuses on their products.
So that little bookstore we talked about could list their books via a simple seller app and then use a completely separate, maybe hyper-local delivery service that's also on ONDC to get the book to the customer.
That's the concept.
Hmm.
It allows for specialization and potentially more competition and innovation within each part of the e-commerce value chain.
Okay, interesting. Interoperability and unbundling. Let's get practical. How
Yeah,
does this actually work? Walk me through a typical transaction.
sure. Let's say you, the buyer, want to buy, I don't know, some specific type of organic honey.
Okay, I need honey.
You open a buyer app on your phone, one that's connected to ONDC. You type in your search, organic forest honey.
Done. Search initiated. What happens next? Behind the curtain.
Okay, so your buyer app takes that search and sends it to something called a gateway. Think of the gateway as like a central router or switchboard for ONDC queries. Initially, ONDC's tech partners are providing these gateways to get things started.
But eventually there could be many different gateways.
That's the vision, yes.
Right.
Multiple independent gateways competing, maybe offering different features. So the gateway gets your organic forest honey requests.
Right.
It then looks up the ONDC registry, which is basically the directory of everyone participating on the network. It finds all the seller apps that might have sellers dealing in honey. And then it multicasts or broadcasts your query to all those relevant seller apps simultaneously.
Wow. Okay, so it blasts the request out to potentially many different places where honey might be sold.
Exactly. Those seller apps then check with their registered sellers. Hey, got a new organic forest honey. What's the price? Is it in stock?
Real-time checks.
Yep. They gather that info, availability, price, seller details, and send it back through the gateway to your buyer app.
And suddenly my app gets flooded with honey options.
Oh, well, hopefully not flooded in a bad way. Your buyer app receives all these offers from different sellers across the network. It then sorts and displays them for you, maybe based on price, seller rating, delivery time, location, whatever criteria the app uses.
So I see a list. Honey from seller A via seller app X, honey from seller B via seller app Y, all in my one buyer app interface.
That's the core flow for discovery.
That sounds pretty smooth, actually. What about actually buying it and getting it delivered?
Good question. Once you choose your honey and place the order, fulfillment can happen a couple of ways. The seller might handle their own delivery,
Yeah.
or they can use the ONDC network again to find a logistics provider. They can search for delivery services on the network, see the costs, the delivery times, and choose one.
So the seller gets options too, and I, the buyer, presumably see the delivery costs and estimated time before I confirm.
Absolutely. Transparency is key. You should see the breakdown product cost, delivery cost, maybe taxes, and choose the option that works for you.
And there must be some underlying rules or services to make sure this all hangs together. It sounds complex with so many moving parts.
There are. ONDC provides essential network services.
Mhm.
We mentioned the registry. There are also things like reputation scoring systems, maybe badging for sellers who meet certain quality standards. These help build trust.
So you can see if a seller or delivery partner is reliable.
Exactly. It helps maintain standards and transparency in this decentralized setup.
What about my data? If I buy honey, who sees that? Does ONDC itself hold all my shopping history?
That's a critical point. According to the sources, the design is such that ONDC itself does not store the actual transaction data. That data, what you bought, when, for how much, resides only with the buyer app you used and the seller app that fulfilled the order.
Okay, so it's not creating another massive central database of everyone's purchases. That's reassuring.
It's designed for privacy, yes.
Yeah.
Decentralized data holding.
Oh, okay, this is making sense. Now let's get to the really exciting part, the potential impact. Where could ONDC really make a difference? Let's see those aha moments. Maybe start with groceries. Everyone buys groceries.
Right. Groceries in India, massive market, like $400 billion. But online penetration, tiny, only 1–2%.
Wow.
ONDC could be huge here.
Yeah.
Think about all the local Kirana stores, the neighborhood shops. ONDC could help them get online easily.
Digitizing the Kirana.
Yeah, like giving them access to more customers, maybe offering hyper-local delivery or click and collect. And the report suggests mid-sized Kiranas could see their take-home profit jump by maybe 13–15%.
13–15%. How? Just more sales.
Partly more sales volume, yes, but also potentially better inventory management, maybe accessing suppliers more easily through the network too. It's about integrating them into the digital flow more efficiently.
That's a tangible benefit for potentially millions of small shop owners. Okay, what about fashion? Another huge
It's
area.
fashion and lifestyle, yeah. Around $110 billion market, expected to double by FY30. Digital shares currently only 10–11%.
Still lowish.
Relatively. ONDC could really boost direct-to-consumer D2C brands here. And imagine small artisans like the Kanchipuram sari weavers mentioned in the report.
Right, I remember reading that.
They could potentially reach customers nationwide directly through various buyer apps, not just limited to one platform's reach. It bypasses intermediaries.
So someone in Delhi could buy directly from a weaver in Tamil Nadu. That's powerful. What about the challenge of buying clothes online, fit, feel?
That's always tricky, but perhaps a more open network could foster better information sharing, more detailed descriptions, videos, maybe standardized sizing across sellers, and potentially more flexible network-wide return policies could emerge.
Interesting. Okay, electronics.
Electronics. ONDC could help brands sell directly to consumers more easily, cutting out layers. But also, think about the resale market. Refurbished goods.
Ah, the circular economy aspect.
Exactly. ONBC could create a more trusted, transparent marketplace for refurbished electronics. The overall goal here is potentially pushing India's digital share in electronics closer to global levels.
Makes sense. Let's switch to food delivery. That's exploded recently.
It really has. Expected to grow 6 times by FY30. ONDC could be a big help for smaller restaurants, maybe even home kitchens,
How so?
by giving them digital visibility without maybe having to rely solely on the big delivery apps and their commission structures. They could list on seller apps, be discovered via multiple buyer apps. It democratizes visibility.
So, more choice for consumers beyond the big chains and maybe better margins for the small guys.
Potentially, yes. And it could enable different, perhaps lower-cost delivery models, too.
Okay. Pharmaceuticals. Getting medicines online.
That's growing, too.
Yeah.
Online pharma market could hit $44–48 billion by FY30. ONDC can help standalone chemists, your local pharmacy, get online, offer an omnichannel experience, order online, pick up in store, or get delivery.
Making access easier, especially for people who can't easily get to a pharmacy.
Precisely. Convenience and accessibility.
What about getting around mobility, taxis, rickshaws?
Yeah, mobility. ONDC could speed up the digitalization of ride-hailing for cabs, autos. But the really interesting bit is the potential to integrate public transport with private hire.
Oh, like planning a whole journey.
Imagine using one app to plan a trip that involves, say, a metro ride and then an auto rickshaw for the last mile, all booked and maybe even paid for seamlessly.
That would be amazing.
And for drivers. Being discoverable through multiple buyer apps could mean more ride requests, potentially better earnings if there's more competition among the platforms on the network.
More power to the drivers, maybe. Okay, hotels, travel.
Hospitality. ONDC could help smaller hotels, especially in Tier 2, Tier 3 cities, get online visibility they might lack now. Also, think P2P homestays, making it easier to onboard and discover those.
Creating more options for travelers beyond the big hotel chains.
Yeah, and the vision extends to integrating experiences, booking a hotel, transport, maybe even local food tours, all potentially linked through ONDC participants. The market's expected to nearly double by FY30, so lots of potential there.
We focus a lot on consumers. What about business to business? B2B.
Oh, yes. B2B. Huge potential, often overlooked. ONDC could really impact MSMEs trading with each other. Think construction materials.
Okay.
It could bring price transparency, maybe lower costs for small builders buying cement or steel, connecting them more directly to suppliers.
Cutting out middlemen, maybe?
Potentially. And agriculture, this is a big one. Enabling direct-to-farmer commerce.
Wow. Tell me more.
Farmers getting better access to markets, potentially fairer prices by selling more directly, access to information weather, market rates. The report suggests a farmer's net income could potentially increase by 25–35%.
25–35%. That's life-changing.
It could be transformative. The report stresses that MSME to MSME trade is really underserved currently. ONDC could provide the rails for that.
Incredible potential there. Lastly, what about money? Financial services?
ONDC could link up with things like India's account aggregators, AAs, and UPI. This could make getting credit easier, especially for individuals and small businesses who are currently underserved.
How? By using ONDC transaction data.
Potentially, yes. If users consent, validated transaction history on ONDC could provide a clearer picture for lenders. This enables embedded finance offering loans or insurance right at the point of sale within the network. Given India's big lending gap for MSMEs and retail, it's another promising area.
Okay, so across the board, groceries, fashion, B2B, finance, the theme is access, choice, leveling the playing field. But It sounds complicated. With all these different players, seller apps, buyer apps, logistics, and how do you make sure it actually works smoothly? And how do you build trust? That seems absolutely crucial.
It is definitely the biggest challenge. In this unbundled world, ensuring a good customer experience from finding the product to getting it delivered and handling things like returns or complaints if something goes wrong that's critical.
If it's clunky or unreliable, people just won't use it.
Exactly. So ONDC is tackling this through clear network policies that everyone has to adhere to. They're developing optimized APIs, the technical connections so different systems can talk to each other reliably, and they're encouraging third-party tools to help integrate everything.
So standards and protocols are key.
Absolutely. It's not just about connecting pipes, it's about ensuring the water flows smoothly and predictably. The sources mention a structured three-step grievance redressal system too, so there's a clear process if issues come up.
A way to resolve disputes.
Yes. And transparency is vital. Buyer apps needing to be clear about how they rank search results, for example. Building a reputation economy with ratings and badges we talked about earlier, it all feeds into building that trust.
Makes sense. You need confidence in the system as a whole, not just the individual seller you buy from. Now, looking outwards, does this ONDC idea have legs beyond India? Could it go global?
Well, the problem ONDC is trying to solve, platform dominance, access for small players, simplifying cross-border trade, they exist everywhere, right?
True.
So yes, as the model matures in India, there's definitely potential for it to be adapted or influence similar initiatives in other countries. Imagine a global network based on these open principles, making international e-commerce easier, especially for smaller businesses.
Like a global standard for digital trade.
That's a potential long-term vision. The report mentions key things needed for that: seamless cross-border payments, internationally recognized ways to handle disputes, a common way to classify products globally, a taxonomy, and probably a coalition of countries or organizations pushing for it.
A big undertaking.
For sure. But look at UPI developed in India, now being adopted or integrated in places like the UAE, Singapore, France, the EU. Yeah. It shows that these open, public, digital infrastructure ideas can travel.
A good precedent. Okay, this has been fascinating. Let's quickly touch on ONDC itself. Who's actually running this? Is it a government thing, a private company?
It's interesting. ONDC was set up in late 2021 as a Section 8 company in India. That means it's officially a not-for-profit.
Not-for-profit.
And importantly, it's majority owned by private sector institutions, banks, financial institutions, etc.
Why private majority if it's nonprofit?
The thinking is to keep it agile, market-aligned, responsive to industry needs, rather than a slower government department. Being nonprofit means its main goal isn't making money for shareholders, but rather establishing this open network as a public good.
So focused on building the infrastructure for everyone else to use.
Precisely. It has an independent management team, and the plan is for it to become financially self-sustaining eventually, maybe through small fees for using network services. The government also set up an advisory council with experienced people to guide it.
Got it. A unique structure. Okay, let's try and wrap this up. If we boil it all down, what are the absolute key takeaways from this deep dive into ONDC?
I'd say the core takeaway is ONDC is this potentially massive effort to fundamentally rewire digital commerce in India, making it more open, more democratic.
Yeah, democratic seems the right word.
It does that through those two key ideas: interoperability, letting different platforms work together, and unbundling, breaking down the transaction into pieces handled by specialists.
And the goal is a more inclusive, more competitive ecosystem for everyone, buyers, sellers, big and small, across tons of different sectors.
Exactly.
We saw those potential aha moments everywhere, didn't we? Kirana stores getting online, weavers reaching national markets, farmers getting better prices, even integrating public and private transport. The scale in India, given its digital growth, is just immense.
It really is. But, and it's a big but, success hinges on execution. Building that trust, ensuring the experience is seamless, reliable. That's absolutely critical, especially in, our impatient digital world.
Definitely. Get the experience wrong and it won't fly. Okay, so here's a thought to leave everyone with. As ONDC develops, maybe even starts influencing digital commerce globally, what new things become possible? What completely new business models might pop up? For you listening, maybe as a consumer, maybe you run a business, maybe you're an innovator, what opportunities could this unlock that we haven't even thought of yet?
That's the big question, isn't it? What comes next?
Yeah.
You want to dig deeper? The ONDC website is the place to go. That's on ndc.org.
ONDC.org.
And the report mentions an email too, team@ondc.org if you have specific questions.
Perfect. Lots to think about there.